Hi, viewers. This is Abhishek, and we'll actually be starting the race in just about a couple of minutes from now. So we only beg for just 2 minutes of your time. Once we're ready, we'll just call it out on the stream, and we will begin. Thank you so much for your time and patience. Hello, one and all. Welcome to the King of Le Mans, the spectacular 4 hour race between the Group 1 and the Group 3 guys out on the same track in the same race. It's going to be an exciting one. The racers are preparing to start, and we have called out a race start, which will happen behind a pace car, our official pace car, driven by our very own Shibi Jyoti. But while we do that, let's also look at the finalists that are into this race. And for the Group 3 class, Tegisone is the one leading the field. Azim Clark is behind him with Cape Crusader behind Azim. Fierce B, Atomic Sunshine has not been able to make it to the race. Dan Lord is there as well, and Isaac sadly could not make it. For your Group 1 finalists, we have Nikhil, we have RKB, we have Zolo, we have Shami. The Wildest Monk could not make it. He has some issues. Fun Anywhere is there out on the track, and Pratik Benya out as well. So right now we're waiting for the game to start loading. The racers are out on the track, and as soon as we have a confirmed visual, we will be starting off with the stream. Here we are. Look at all the amazing racers behind the pace car driven by Shivi. And this is such a sight to behold. We're giving the racers an opportunity to warm up their tires, charge up their hybrid systems behind the pace car. So they have ample tire warmth for the start of the race. And you can see the Group 1 boys following the safety car closely. And the Group 3 boys are actually maintaining just that little bit of distance so they don't interfere with the race. Uh, Let me also turn up the display settings so you can see everyone that's out on the track. Red Dot Blue leading us in the safety car with Nichols behind him and RKV with that beautiful livery as well. Zolo right behind RKV, and look at these guys just warming their tires up constantly, making sure that they're in the optimal condition when the race begins. Uh, Shami ends the Group 1 pack with Fun Anywhere and Pratik Benyan. Look at that amazing red and kind of like a gray livery. It's just amazing. Tegisone, who qualified amazingly well yesterday, he's leading the Group 3 pack with Azim Clark behind him. And Azim being Kimi in this situation where he's not weaving around, he knows he can get warmth in his tires by just driving straight. Uh, Cape Crusader right behind Azim, Fierce V on there as well. Look at that beautiful livery on Fierce V's car. And Dan Lord towards the end of the pack. I think he's just giving himself some space for when the race actually starts. So we have to go the entire lap behind the pace car. And once the pace car comes into the pits, the leaders of each respective class can start moving or they can start gunning for it after the Ford chicane, which is the last chicane on the track. Right now, I think we're just done with the second chicane on the Mulsanne Straight, and we're moving towards the Mulsanne Kink. This is an amazing sight to behold for all the racers because this is something that we have not done before. I don't think this is something that anyone has done before, like two different car classes out on the same track having two separate races of their own. There's going to be plenty of action, not just from the guys who are racing each other, but also from between different classes when they're trying to overtake and the blue flags are being shown because ghosting is completely off for this race. So the drivers have been given out strict instructions in terms of how they're supposed to behave when they get a blue flag and how they're supposed to behave in terms of racing etiquettes and the penalties that will be given out. The race is supposed to be 4 hours long, and we have contingency plans in effect if we have disconnections or if there are bugs in the game. But the aim is to go full 4 hours of continuous racing with a 20-minute of break enforced in between. So the break will be taken in such a fashion that between lap number 30 to 35 for each of the classes, the drivers have to mandatorily come into the pits, not do anything, and just stay there for 20 minutes. This will give them an opportunity to actually, attend a nature's call, have a drink, get some rest as well, because again, it will be back to 2 more hours of continuous racing. Again, not just with each other, but also with the different car classes that are out on the show. And once again, this beautiful livery that was designed by our very own Tariq, who sadly couldn't be in the race because obviously, if you guys are familiar, he came third in the Toyota Championship, and these guys are having like a massive photo shoot over there. But this just looks fantastic right now. Nichols cautious and cautious behind the safety car. Let's just go on board him towards the very end of this lap. This is where these guys will start to create a distance between themselves and the pace car so that the pace car can go safely into the pits. We'll stay on board Nikhil for a little while, and once the race is about to begin, we'll go out into the standard camera. But the anticipation is high because if you make a mistake after the last chicane and you spin out, which we have seen a couple guys do, your race can be in shambles. But again, this is a long race and anything can happen. Look at that, Nikhil backing the pack up. He knows that the safety car is into the pits. They are passing they're going towards the final chicane, and as soon as he passes that chicane, he's going to gun it and make sure he creates a gap for himself. And yes, he has. He has gunned it. And just look at that. RKV is so close behind him. Just about 900ths of a second between them. RKV is going to make a move. And I think he has. RKV has made a move going into the first corner into the Dunlop curves. But Nikhil fights back. There's a little bit of a slide, a little bit of contact between, I think Shami was the recipient. Oh, he's just spinning his tires out. That's just not good for him. And look at that Group 3 boys as well. These guys came out. These guys came out properly, but again, Shami getting caught up in the action. That's just not going to end up well for him. Now he's stuck behind all of these guys in the slower Group 3 cars, and he has to bide his time. He has to wait until the Mulsanne straight to actually go ahead and start overtaking people. Azim Clark, I think, has lost a couple of positions. This is how this is. You have to keep your tires warm almost constantly during the outlap. But look at this. Nikhil has now created a 1.2 second gap between himself and RKV. And that gap is like about 1.3 seconds, but it is coming down. It is fluctuating. Zolo is right on our KV's tail, trying to get that slipstream. Pratik Benya right behind Zolo as well. And if you guys know this, Pratik Benya was actually the winner of our social media contest, where he can actually start on whichever tire he wants to. Um, all the other racers are starting on the racing hards, but Pratik Benya and Caped Crusader, they can start on whichever tires they want to as well. So let's just look at the tire choices that these guys have taken up. Pratik Benya is on the soft, so he's going to start catching up to these guys. And Fun Anywhere, he's lagging behind for now. But Shami, that was a dismal start for him. But he has no reason to feel dejected. It is a long race. Anything can happen. Damage is on. So if you hit someone, if you get hit into the wall, your car will get damaged. The damage is set to light, so it will only be slowing you down for just a few minutes, and after that, it's going to be fine. And look at that, the Group 3 boys, just about 1.2 seconds between Peggy Sony and Cape Crusader. Azim Clark has lost a position, and it's not going really well for him. Fierceby is right on his tail, trying to overtake him into the Mulsanne Kings, but ah, Azim Clark just holds on for now. Fierceby is right there along with these guys as well, and Dan Lord just biding his time at the end of the pack. He knows that these guys are going to fight, these guys are going to give each other damage, so he's just going to be consistent. He's just going to put in his laps, and you know what? He might just go up if the other guys are fighting all the time. Uh, there has been a switch. There has been a switch, and the Group One RKV is now leading with Pratik Benya right behind him. Nikhils has fallen down the order. I think he made a mistake going somewhere. It's just so much action happening everywhere. We can't just keep track of almost everything that goes out onto the track. Zolo has also lost a position. He's now behind Nikhil. Fun Anywhere is still struggling just a little bit. And Shami has closed that gap from 12 seconds down to just 5 seconds between him and Fun Anywhere. Somebody's going into the pits. That's Zolo. So I think he's going to get rid of these harder tires because these drivers are finding it very difficult. RKV has done the same thing. But this gives an opportunity to Nikhil to actually run into some free air and try to get the slipstream off of Pratik Benya, who's on the softer compound, and try to create a gap and do the overcut on RKV. It's going to be difficult, but he is going to try. And look at that. So many people just came into the pits, getting away the mandatory hard tires and getting onto the softer compounds. Tegi Sone, again, the leader of the Group 3 pack, he's going to come into the pits as well. Uh, do we see? No, Cape Crusader does not do that. And Okay, so Azim has not pitted as well. So for right now, Pratik Benya is leading the field in the Group 1 category. Nikhil right behind him. RKV is about 14 seconds behind these guys on the soft compound, so he's going to catch up pretty quickly. This is a long lap, and your softer compound tires can get activated pretty quickly. Zolo about 2.6 seconds behind RKV. Fun Anywhere, I think he pitted for the medium tires, so he's about 15 seconds behind. With Shami, look at that, closing the gap to just 1.5 seconds. But another thing to note over here is that these guys have to serve their penalties before the first chicane on the Mulsanne Straight. So Shami has a 2 second penalty and he has to serve it. Otherwise, he can get a 300-second penalty added onto the top of his race time at the end. So we're just going to stay on board Shami, and look at that. He's slowing down. He's getting rid of those penalties as well. And while you guys are, let's do one thing. Let's go on board RKV because he's on the softer tires, obviously. He's going to go faster and faster all the time. And let me also bring in my co-commentator Shivi, who you remember was earlier driving the safety car. Shivi, are you here with us? Shivi, can you hear us? I think we're facing some some issues with Shivi's microphone. I'm sure he'll get that fixed in no time. But we're still on board RKV, and let me just give you a little brief about how these cars actually work. So, the hybrid systems on these cars actually generate electricity while you're braking. It's a KERS system, which is a kinetic energy recovery system. So when you see RKV brake, look at the right hand side of his LCD display on the steering wheel. You see that big bold red letters in percentage and the white bar below it. That indicates your battery charge. And as soon as you start accelerating, your battery charge will start going down. It gives you that massive boost that helps you gain tremendous speed, tremendous acceleration. And it looks like Shibi is back with us as well. Shibi, are you here with us? Okay, I think we'll have to go back to Shibi once again. But nonetheless, Nikhils has gone into the pits and he's going to change into a softer compound of tires. Let's see what tires he puts on. So he was on the hards and he's coming out on the softs. So yeah, Nikhil is going to gun for it as well. He's about 6 seconds behind Zolo now, but on the softer compounds as well. And RKV is about 14 seconds behind Pratik Benya. So Pratik Benya has not gone into the pits. He's just staying out for as long as he can. And in the Group 3 class, we're looking at Azim Clark, who has taken the lead for now. Cape Crusader right behind him, and these guys are fighting constantly. And this guy is going to be happy. Tegisone on the softer compounds, he's trying to gain as much time as he can. And Dan Lord as well. So let's just zoom out onto the camera here. And look at this tasty fight brewing between Cape Crusader and Azim Clark. Uh, about 7 tenths between them, but Azim Clark gets a much better exit out of the final chicane. And he's setting some good lap times as well, about a 3:59, which I think is representative of the hard tires. There's about a 4 second per gap difference between the hard and the soft tires. Um, and he gets a penalty as well. So let's just stay with Azim because once he starts serving that penalty, Cape Crusader should be able to catch up to him as well. So let's just look at Azim for now and see what happens. Okay, so we're back on Azim Clark, and he has that penalty, and it doesn't look like he's going to be serving this, is he? Okay, so that's bad news for Azim because he will be getting a penalty from the stewards on this one. And as I say that, I think I can hear Shibi on his ear. Welcome, Shibi. Hey, Shibi, welcome. Shibi, are you here with us?
Yeah, yeah. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Perfect.
All right, guys. So we have Shibi back with us. Shibi, say hi to the people who are watching.
Hey guys, like how are you? Like amazing race today. Yep.
So tell me, Shibi, what are your thoughts on the race? We're just looking at Azim, and he had that 1.8-second penalty, which he did not let go of before the first chicane. So, as the chief steward on this one, do you think he will be getting some sort of penalty going forward during the race, or do you think it's better left to give him a penalty at the end of the race once everything is done?
I think for now, like Aziz, like by the end of the race, that should be good enough. But overall, like what I actually see is like pretty much good behavior. In the second lap or the third lap, we had like a penalty which Nikhil had like around like 4 seconds or something. But I kind of observed that like he promptly let it out, and as well as served it properly like before the first chicane, Busan in the Busan straight. So kind of overall like good behavior. That's what
Yeah,
I can
and
actually.
as you say that, Nikhil's had a 2 second penalty, and he is serving that. So yeah, I think we have to go back to Azim on that one because he's still carrying that 1.8-second penalty. He's completing this lap, but maybe it just slipped out of his mind. These guys are having a good old fight for track position, jostling all the time. So maybe he serves it now, but let's just look at Azim, and he has already made up a 3 second gap between himself and Cape Crusader, so that's going to help him out. But obviously, because he did not serve that penalty on the last lap, he will be getting some time added onto his race time at the end.
Absolutely. Like something else which will be in his mind is that, you know, 8 second penalty, if he doesn't bleed it out like in these corners, if he is actually serving it in the straight, that will amount to close to 3 or 4 seconds, race time. So that will have Cap Crusader, reaching during that time.
Yeah,
So if
exactly.
that in his mind actually. Yeah.
Exactly. So the problem here is that if you serve this penalty of, let's say, 1.8 seconds, because this is not a stop penalty, you just have to let your foot off the accelerator. You don't actually lose so much time, to be really honest. But if you don't serve it, the amount of penalty that will get added to your final race time is going to be massive. So whichever position he is in now, he's leading the Group One cars. Uh, that he's just gonna drop back by the end of the race.
Correct. I hear you. I mean, it's a long race, and you shouldn't be fighting for positions at this time. He should be this is the time like he has to serve it. Like so, yes. So we'll have to actually look into it in the second lap. Like, yeah.
Absolutely. So we definitely have to look at these guys on what these guys are doing, and let's take a look at Pratik Benya, who is our leader right now, and let's see if we can actually look at how Pratik Benya is driving. So uh, we have Pratik Benya out on your screen, and we have Pratik Benya at the bottom of your screen as well. Look at that amazing rig that he fashioned out. His wheel just begging to let go, but he's not going to let go of that. He has about a 10-second lead to RKV behind him, and he's on the softer compound of tires as well because he won the Instagram challenge. So I think this is working out really, really well for him. Your thoughts on this, Shibi?
Pratik, like he's doing amazing. He got that soft tires going on, like fine. But I would actually keep my eyes on RKV because what he did was he actually was in hards. He later pitted and then he put on his soft, and now he's like closing his gap between with Pratik. So I would actually have my eyes on RKV actually.
Okay.
like RKV.
Yes, RKV does have the advantage of the additional pit stop that he did, but the problem over here is that he did that pit stop only to get rid of the harder compound tires, which
Right.
Pratik Benya does not have to do. So I think at this stage, personally, I feel RKV is at a disadvantage, but this is a long race. Anything can happen, and things can just change in an instant.
So if you look at like tire wear, right? Like RKV has one lap fresher tires, and you can actually he's just set up a purple sector. I think like in the first sector, I think, and also in the second. Look at the gap. Like it's 9.3. Earlier it was 10. Like when he started. in the Mulsanne straight. So now in the Mulsanne corner, like now it is actually 9.3. So it's actually closing it. It's a very good battle between like Pratik and RKV because if you look at the qualification, they were both like I think like uh, close. I think oh no, they were not close, but
Yeah,
race
Pratik
pace
Benny
was
actually
very
started, I
good.
think, fourth or fifth once the qualification started, because he got that added advantage of the social media challenge. He could just start on the softer compounds. Um, Azim Clark has finally gone into the pits. He has still not served that penalty. So I think we might have to notify him on Discord. Shibi, if you can take that opportunity as the chief race steward, to
I mean,
notify
like
him on,
yeah,
yeah, to
absolutely. Like
notify him on Discord that he has to come into the pits again for a stop and go penalty, because he has not been serving the penalties on the Mulsanne straight. But otherwise, we also have a Fierce B who is into the pits, Ape Crusader, and Dan Lord as well.
right. Sure. Pretty soon, like I'll actually inform Aziz for his pit stop and go, and yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. And let's also take a look at Nikias. The way he's driving right now. I mean, he started at the top of the field, slipping down to fourth. I think he made a massive error going into. I think it was just after the Mulsanne King, because he started losing a lot of positions, and you can see Nikhil working hard on his Logitech wheel. But again, these guys have a lot of practice, and they know exactly what they need to be doing in. Ankur Agarwal sadly could not join us, the wildest monk, and he's watching the stream. Ankur, we tried waiting for you. I'm really sorry we could not get it done, but I'm sure on the next one you will get a better position out of this. Uh, but again, coming back to Nichols, I think the start of the race for him, Shibi. What do you think is on your mind in terms of Nichols right now? Okay, I think Shibi is talking to Azim about his penalty, so we'll just stay on board with Nikhil and look at what he's doing.
Right. So you were asking about Nickel. So he has like pace, definitely, but a couple of mistakes. That's why he's like 14 seconds behind RKV. I think like he has to keep his head cool, drive smoothly, and he will in no time like he'll be able to reach. A couple of corners, he actually reduced his gap with the RKV, but sometimes he slips and slides. So that's that he can work on and he can actually fix that.
Right. So, and I think that's his Achilles
Yeah,
heel as well. He has been getting a few penalties along the way, and because he's been consistently getting penalties and consistently getting rid of them, he is losing out on some time to these guys as well. But nevertheless, he's a fast guy. He's almost always relentless in his pursuit of the guys in front of him. So yeah, I expect good things out of Nikhil, and let's just jump on board Nikhil and see what he's doing.
Okay, let me actually give some instructions to Azim and I'll be back in a minute.
Absolutely. You do that, and we'll just stay on board Nikhil for now and look at his steering inputs and everything.
Okay, so latest update between Pratik and RKV. Um, it's actually the gap has come down to 6.4, and now RKV is actually stuck behind Group 3 cars. And that,
Yeah, so we just caught that on the stream. I'm really sorry, I had my mic on mute, so I just kept talking. But yeah, RKV had some tough time navigating, and Azim is still getting penalties. He's getting the blue flag waved at him, and just behind him, Fierceby lets the Group One car by, and Cape Crusader as well. Uh, I think that's yeah, that was Zolo who's passing the good three cars on the Mulsanne straight, and Nikhil who was just passing Cape Crusader. But coming back to Azim, I think he's not monitoring his Discord. He's just so far into the zone right now. He just doesn't realize that he has been given a stop and go penalty. So if Azim does not solve that, then it's going to be a bigger infraction for him towards the end of the race. We will keep maintaining contact with him, try to ensure that he serves his stop and go penalty and continues with the race, because if he doesn't do that, he's going to be at a massive disadvantage once the race ends. Your thoughts, Shibi?
I would actually try to reach out to him in the chat in the PS only, and see if he can see that. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So at least he'll see that on his screen. And let's look at any other battles that are happening. The Group 1 cars are pretty close. Fun Anywhere is having a torrid time right now. I mean, the car looks absolutely beautiful with that red livery, but he just does not look onto the races. Let's get rid of the lap timer information so the audience can actually see what's going on. And as you saw, Fun Anywhere is letting go of his penalties, and look at that, he spins. It's not going well for him, and if this continues, I think he's going to get pretty easily lapped by his own Group One team member. So that's going to be a very bad thing for his morale as well. So I think he has to buckle down and start driving properly. But elsewhere, I mean, the race has segregated. It has opened up quite a bit with the Group One cars as well. And Dan Lord at the back of the field with about 18 seconds between him and Cape Crusader. But the point is, you should not give up. It's a long race. Anything can happen, and with Azim serving that huge penalty, I think Dan Lord can make up positions as well. Let's stay with Cape Crusader. He has been shown the blue flag because I can see Zolo there in the background, just trying to overtake the Group 3 car, and he'll do that in the straights. He knows better not to try and make a move in the corners, and look at that. Goes for the overtake, makes it stick, does not lose any time. Shibi, what are your thoughts on the overtaking process? How is it looking at your end?
They are, as I said, like, respectful, and shouldn't be a concern at all. You know, like an amazing race going on. So I'm actually not like that concerned. So at this point, and people are actually spread out, and a couple of places like where we have like races going on, and hey, just RKV and Nickel picked now, and
Yeah, so these guys
uh,
have pitted, I think, for fuel and maybe get a new set of tires. But we're staying with Fierceby right now and looking at his own personal video stream as well. Uh, Cape Crusader has left the room, so I think he's just fed up. I think he just maybe did not get the positions, or maybe he got disconnected. We'll just know after a few moments on Discord. But we're on board Fierceby, so let's just actually jump inside the cockpit, give you a much better understanding of how he's driving. And look at that, gloves and all, making sure he's ready for these 4 hours of racing, and consistently concentrating on what's happening in the race, and looking behind as well. So he has been shown the blue flag, but I do not see a Group 1 car in sight just yet. So maybe it'll happen again on the straight. So look at that. He gets shown the blue flag again. And you can see in the distance the Group 1 car coming to overtake him. So there's still a little bit of time before that happens. Um, Shivi, in terms of what Pratik Benya has done, staying at the top of the field for Group 1, uh,
mhm.
what do you think? Because do you think that was because of the advantage of the social media challenge that he won, and or do you see the advantage just purely based on skill of his driving?
I think a couple of things. Yeah, as you rightly said, like definitely he had that advantage, like tire advantage in the beginning and racing soft. The thing is, like racing soft, even if they had like softs, it's not going anywhere. I mean, like it's as good as like mediums or hard, and race pace wise, it is better and things like that. But he had actually kept like consistent lap times and stuff like that. Like he's actually consistent, he's not making any mistakes, and he has made like fewer pit stops than RKV. So that is actually why we are actually seeing at this point like 38.7. And I think like he's actually, if I'm not sure, but I think like he's actually kind of coasting in certain corners and saving fuel and stuff like that. So that is actually his advantage. And RKV, I think like he has made like a couple of pit stops and he's back, but his race pace wise, like he's good. And we are like what, like 30 minutes into the race, and we have enough time like for RKV to catch up with Pratik.
Yeah, and I was just noticing something. So we had set a contingency plan in terms of the breaks. So if at least two people disconnect before the 2 hour mark, we were going to stop the race and then restart with the other two people joining in. So for the people who are actually watching the stream, we have two people who did get disconnected. So one is the wildest one, which is Ankur, and the other one is Cape Crusader. He just messaged me personally saying that there was some issue with his internet. So these guys do have an opportunity to come back into the race at the 2 hour mark, where we'll actually stop the proceedings, start it back up again with the necessary time difference that these guys have. And the guys who actually join on the 2 hour mark will start 45 seconds after the last car has left the grid. So do not leave yet. Plenty of action coming in your way. We're only on lap 8, and we are only into about 43 minutes into the 4 hour race. Shibi, what are your thoughts?
Again, like it's amazing, and a couple of things I actually saw like while we were talking is, you know, uh, for example, Fierce B, like he's been in this car, like Group D car, and he drove for like 89 kilometers at this point. So, and he's actually kept like 3.58 per lap and stuff like that. I would say like that is a good lap time, like race pace and stuff like that, with minimum experience in this car. So I mean, like he's a good driver. I mean, at this point,
The commentator's curse comes into the picture. He was trying to enter the pits and he just hits the wall, giving his car damage. So I think we have to like we probably have to like restrain ourselves from talking good about people, because whenever we do that, I remember yesterday, Tegison was about to do a 354 even, or maybe a 355 on his qualifying lap, and I got so excited. And at the end of the Mulsanne kink, he just lost it, just spun out and let this entire lap get ruined. So yeah, let's not put heaps of praises on anyone because anything can happen. But PSB back out onto the track. The gap to Dan Lord is just about 2.8 seconds now. But this man, Pratik Penya, consistently maintaining that 13-second gap. He's just showing everyone how it's done.
I think like again, like I might be talking about RKV. I might be kind of biased also. I think like he's like both of them are driving like amazing. Like they are preserving their tires. Like they're actually somehow like driving properly. I mean, like fuel consumption is less and stuff like that. And uh, we are only talking about them, but Nickel, he's also doing like an amazing job apparently. So at this point, like he's in medium, and I think like medium, like he can actually carry it like so much more forward. He just need to focus on like preserving, saving his fuel, and he'll be well within RKV's reach and stuff like that. So we are actually looking at like an amazing three-way battle, like any point in time, like in another half an hour or something.
Absolutely. And looking at Pratik Banya's tire and fuel usage as well, um, it looks like he went into the pits and did not change his tires, which actually seems like a viable strategy to me because you shave off those precious few seconds. And Kashyap, who is on the chat, is he who just subscribed. He just asking if there were any lobby bugs. No, there were not, Kashyap. We actually did a pretty good job in terms of starting the race with everyone on board. And for the guys in the stream who are hearing the beeping in the background, that's my inverter because the power just went out. But do not worry, we have contingencies in place. If for any reason you see the stream going off, which I don't think will happen now because the power is just back out. But again, if you see the stream going off, be rest assured that the race is and will be going on because the lobby has been set to public so that even if I disconnect, these guys will still be racing and I can just jump back straight into the action once the time comes. But keeping that aside, looking at the times that Pratik Benya has been setting, 323s consistently on these tires. So I think the point that you mentioned in terms of him managing the car and managing the fuel and the tire wear as well. I think that's spot on because he's doing a bang on job of managing everything and just staying ahead. But having said that, our KV has brought the gap down to about just 10 seconds. So he ate up about 3 seconds in that last lap, and we can never discount RKV. I've raced RKV for over a year now, and he's relentless. No matter how many seconds of a gap he has, he will always try to push the car to its maximum and get and extract everything out of it. Shibi, your thoughts on RKV? I know you have a bias, but do not bring it because he might just crash.
As I said, like amazing. I have actually raced with him a couple of times. I think he's amazing to drive and he has like a cool attitude and stuff like that. But he will catch up. I think like let's say a couple of seconds per lap. I'm not sure. Like that's how he's actually driving like an amazing race, like amazing pace with like all tire preservation and stuff like that. And I'm actually waiting for these guys to battle, you know, waiting for that. Like that will be like amazing. Both good drivers. Like I want to see actually that, and both respect each other. They have been actually driving for quite a long time, so they know like how each other drives and stuff like that. So I want to actually see that. At this point, it is actually 9.9 within 10 seconds gap. So that's actually amazing for the viewers to see that battle going on. So I would also point out to Shamim. I mean, like and Fun Anyway. They will actually at some point like come together again. Nikhil at this point he's on his own. Like he's like 21 seconds behind RKV. But Shamim and Fun Anyway. So if Fun Anyway doesn't do many mistakes and stuff like that, we can actually we will get to see like Shamim and Fun Aditya get like into a battle like sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing about RKV, so he is shaving off some time, but Pratik has kept it constant, at least for the last lap. But again, these guys have been racing for a very long time, Pratik and RKV, back in the PRX days, if our viewers are familiar with that. And massive amount of respect between them. They understand each other. They know what the other guy is capable of, and they know when to give space and when to fight. So yeah, that's going to be a tasty battle if those guys come together. But I'm also looking at Nikhil, who is about 31 seconds behind Pratik, and it's just not going well for him, is it? Like he started at the top. I think he made a couple of mistakes, and right now he's about 30 seconds behind those guys. And it looks like he's on the medium compound tires. So I think the tire advantage, at least for the duration of the race and the kind of tire wear that we have, uh, might just go with the softer compounds instead of the medium. What do you think?
Absolutely. Tire in this race doesn't matter that much. He should have actually gone with softs, and that could have lasted him the entire. I mean, like for a quite a long time. It doesn't make any difference, having mediums on. Just preserve your fuel. That is actually the name of the game. I mean, be consistent. Spend as little fuel as possible. You're good to go. And
Absolutely. Fuel management is going to be the key for these guys as well because the tire wear is not that high. And fuel consumption, if these guys are able to, upshift early, get better exits out of corners, just a little bit of lift and coast, I think that's going to be a much bigger advantage, not just to the Group 3 guys, but to the Group 1 guys as well, with the hybrid systems. And the Toyota car is actually pretty nicely in terms of fuel efficiency. So those guys can go longer into the race if they really wanted to. Uh, But yeah, Nikhil, I think it has not been a good day for him. And we've still not been able to get in touch with Azim. So I just wanted to understand, Shibi, has he responded in terms of his stop and go penalty?
He hasn't, and I'm actually keeping an eye on him. The reason is like at this point he's actually 4 point. He has like 4.9 seconds penalty. I'm not sure where he is actually getting those from. Is he actually? I hope not, but is he actually like cutting corners and whatnot? No, that shouldn't be the case. He shouldn't be doing it. But let me actually. He's in the fourth chicane almost. Let me see what he's actually doing. He's in the pits right now. I think like he's going to serve.
Yes,
Uh,
I think we are better off just letting him know that once he's done with this pit stop, he has to come back in for a stop and go because he right now it's all paused, so he should be able to hear your voice as well. So I'll let you go ahead and do that, and we'll just look at the other guys out onto the track as well.
Massive moment for Nikhil. I think like he's lost it somewhere in Indianapolis. Recovered. So 28 seconds now.
Oh yeah, I can see that gap is now about 38 seconds. I think he all in all he lost in about uh, maybe 3 or 4 odd seconds. So not much, but again, uh, if you start losing 2 or 3 seconds every lap, by the end of the 60 lap, it's just going to be a massive difference.
Right. So Pratik is in Dunlop curve and RKV is catching up. 8.2 seconds between them. And what we have is like Nikhil and Shamim. Like Nikhil making that mistake. Shamim is closer to Nikhil now. That's like at 7.8.
Yes, I'm looking at the fuel usage between Pratik and RKV. RKV looks like he has less fuel. So his car might be just a little bit faster. So he should be focusing on trying to catch up. But that's where it does. See, he gets that 1.5 second penalty for most probably cutting the Dunlop curve.
Yeah,
And now he has to serve that.
I just
And
want to point you to the end of it. Like I mean, like Fierce B and Dan. I think Fierce B and Azim. They are having a battle. Uh, Fierce B like just overtook Azim.
Yeah, I do see that. So Azim, like they're properly side by side going into the Mulsan King, and let's just stay with these guys because there's going to be an interesting battle for sure. So Azim Clark is on top. He still has that 4.7 second penalty, which he needs to come in into the pits and serve. Fierceby just behind him, and Fierceby getting that slipstream advantage as well. So let's just stay with these guys and see what kind of moves are being made while going into. I think they're going into Indianapolis on this one. So let's just stay with them and see where this leads us.
Fierce B just over to Azim again. Uh, but pretty good.
Yeah, Azim has been overtaken by Fiersby. I do see that. And I think Azim is not having a very good race. He is making a few mistakes. He is cutting corners, and the track limits are so strict on this one that even if you cut the corner by just a little bit, you will get a lot of penalties. But a lot of people out on the car, Aditya Raghav, out on the chat actually, I'm sorry. So Aditya Raghav, the ancient pleb, wishing everyone the best of luck. And Kashyap, we do agree with you. The hybrid actually gains a lot of energy when you're off throttle. So, lift and coast can really work. And we have Tegvijay Singh Puri saying hi. Hi, Teg Vijay. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Look at the race. Let us know if you also play any racing simulators or any other games that you're interested in. Join Sim Nation India on Instagram and stay up to date with all the events that we have, and we have some good ones in the pipeline. And I'm looking at Azim. He has still not come into the pits. So I think that right now is like a direct violation of a direct race steward order, which I think is going to land him a huge penalty. Your thoughts, Shibi?
Uh, Absolutely. Uh, this is going to be a huge issue. I'm not sure whether he's actually skipped out of his mind, but I've actually tried to reach him on the chat as well, so he would have actually definitely seen that. Now we'll have to actually take a call. Uh,
Yes, I think we'll have to take a strong call towards the end of the race because every driver was briefed at the beginning of the race and even during the driver briefings that we had throughout the week, and it was made pretty clear that you were supposed to serve your penalties before the PlayStation chicane or the first chicane on the Mulsanne Straight. But coming back to RKV and Pratik Benya, so the gap is still there, and RKV is still getting those penalties. See, that's where he's making the mistakes. He's fast. He is catching up to Pratik Benya, and then he gets that small little penalty, and he has to serve that onto the Mulsanne Straight, and that just takes away the entire lead that he made up throughout the entire lap. So Pratik Benya coasting nicely. He has this race under under his finger. He knows exactly what to do, exactly the buttons to push. So let's actually go on board Pratik Benya if we can. Um, So that's where Pratik Benya is, staring into his Discord screen. Uh, he's getting a little sweaty, but that's to be expected. These guys are on the top of their game, constantly. I'll just move the Pratik's team out of the way just a little bit so you can see. We have about 3 hours and 11 minutes remaining on the total race time. So yeah, as things stand right now, our contingency plan will come into effect at the 2 hour mark, where we'll stop the race and then we will go back and restart it again with the guys who got disconnected. Uh, and Yeah, Pratik Benya is just making headway into onto the field, but the distance is slightly coming down, and RKV has that lesser fuel, so I think he will pit at least a lap before Pratik Benya does. And these guys in the Group One cars, they should be able, to gain some time in terms of the slipstream advantage as well, going behind the Group Three cars. Shibi, I think Azim is on Discord for you, so you better going off there.
uh, Azim is actually going to serve his penalty now. I just spoke to him. He was kind of not aware of stuff. So.
Yeah, so I've been listening on to the Discord conversation, so we're just staying on board with Azim as he goes into the pits. Remember, viewers, he is not supposed to change his tires, and he's not supposed to put any fuel. So we're looking at his pit stop crew. He's just staying there. 10 seconds, he has to stay stationary, not change anything, and then he can start moving. Shibi, great job on getting in touch with Azim, and he just goes for it now. No change in tires, no change in fuel, and Azim comes behind Tegiswan. So I think he lost a position because of all those penalties. And Azim, because he has that 2.3 second penalty as well, he has to serve it before the first chicane on the Mulsan straight. I think we should make that clear to him as well, Shibi.
Sure. I will let him know. And quickly, I want to actually point out to the battle. I think, like, Nikhil and Shami. Shami is actually Shamim is kind of 5.4 seconds behind Nikhil, and slowly but surely he's actually catching up. So that is also uh, going to turn out to be a good battle.
Yeah, that's going to turn out to be a good battle as well because Shami, if you remember, he actually either he got hit or he lost his rear on the Dunlop curve, and then it took him so long to recover. By the time he did, the Group 3 cars just came in and then it just ruined everything. Okay, there has been a huge incident between Azim and Fiersby. So Azim was serving his penalty, and Fiersby just came out behind him. I think I think that's going to be a complaint at the end of the race against Azim on that one because he should have been serving his penalty. Uh, so he was away on the racing line. I think it was a three-car battle with a Group One car in the mix as well. So we'll have to take a look at the stewards will have to take a look at all the action at the end of the race, and then we'll be able to take a call. But for now, Azim drops right at the back of the pack, so he has to make up all those positions once again. Tegiswan leading the Group 3 class. So this is turning out to be a good race for him. There's a 22-second gap between him and Dan Lord as well. So he just needs to stay consistent. He's just put on a fresh set of tires. He just needs to stay consistent and just go through the race as nicely and as easily as he can.
Uh, Brought up Dan Lord. I mean, like he has been actually in his own world, like serving, going ahead. It's like 12 laps. He didn't have any bother. Like he was in his own world. But I think like pretty soon like TSB will be in his tail. Like TSB is like 2.2 seconds behind Dan, and we'll actually get to see like what happens over there as well in a couple of laps.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dan Lord has not been having a good race. I mean, I think he came out in front getting track position because of that incident between Azim and Fiersby and with the penalties and the pit stops as well. So yeah, I expect Dan Lord to get overtaken pretty soon. The gap is coming down. It's now about 1.9 seconds between him and Fiersby. And Azim right at the back of the field as well after serving all of his penalties. So he has to be wary. He has to stay consistent now, not get any more penalties because that's just going to ruin the race. He was leading the Group 3 class at one point, but now he has to do all of that work all over again. Your thoughts, Shibi?
I mean, again, like we have like 3 more hours, so anything could happen. Azim, he has to not get any more penalties. Don't go into the pit lane and at least like don't serve like 10-second penalty, stop and go penalty and stuff like that. And he has race pace. He's catching up with CSB. Keep it cool, and he will be well ahead. Like there shouldn't be a problem for him.
Absolutely, and also we have to remember the fact that these guys. Um, the ones who got disconnected, Cape Crusader and Ankur, the Wildest Monk, these guys will be back in action, but they will have 2 hours and they have to make up the entire gap because they'll be starting at the end with about a 45-second difference between themselves and the other racers. So this is going to turn into a tasty one. Pratik Benya, he's set to take this victory. The gap is down to about 6 seconds between him and RKV, but I'm sure RKV is going to dive into the pits probably this lap or the next one. So we have to wait and watch because Pratik will always carry that pit stop advantage in front of RKV because I think he did not change tires on the last one. And if RKV realizes this, he should be doing the same thing as well. But again, this is going to be a tasty battle between RKV and Pratik Benya when it comes to it. Zolo is about 17 seconds behind RKB. He is not having a good race. He was extremely quick during the practice sessions, extremely quick during the qualifying sessions. But towards the end, I think the form has just dipped. But you have to remember, Zolo has a lot of class. He has absolutely tremendous race pace. So if he can settle down into a rhythm, get back into the game, he should be able to catch up to these guys. And Nikhil as well, because that mistake actually cost him a lot at the start of the race. Shami is about 3 seconds behind Nikhil. So anything can happen, and I'm sure Shami will try and overtake these guys as quickly as he can. Fun Anywhere, he's just on like a different race right now. He's about 1 minute behind Shami, so he's not having a good race at all, which is very unlike Fun Anywhere or Aditya, as he's known. So yeah, he's not been on the top of this game. Maybe he's not practiced enough. I'm not too sure what's happening there. Shibi, your thoughts? So I'm actually looking at RKV, and as I predicted, he has come into the pits. So if he fills up and gets a good outlap, do you think he'll be able to close in that gap to Pratik Benya?
I was actually expecting him to close his gap, but I think what is happening is Pratik is saving his fuel so much that he's sacrificing a little bit on the race pace, but saving fuel and going longer. And RKV couldn't, even though he's fast, like he's actually couldn't, he's not able to close the gap with. He's coming close. I mean, like 5 seconds. We have seen close to 6 seconds and all those things, but he's not able to reach it. Pratik is like doing a good job. Like RKV is like pretty fast, but Pratik is doing a good job. And if I'm not wrong, just like Nikhil has pitted, I hope like he's actually like putting on his softs or he's fueling up, but I'm not sure he's going. He's like still staying in the mediums. I think I shouldn't. Oh no, he's actually changed to softs. That's a good call, I think. Now he'll be able to quickly catch up with Shami.
Yeah, so this outlap is going to be important for him because this is where he can make up some time. So I do not see many people in front of him, so he's not come out into traffic. He has clear air, and he can just start. And he's making those little mistakes, sliding into corners, and that's just not helping his cause at all. So he has to stay fairly consistent during this outlap and the next lap as well, because I think Pratik. Let's just look at Pratik's fuel situation, and I'll just show it to the viewers on the screen as well. So Pratik, I think if he's managing fuel, he should be able to do one more lap. But if he really wants to, he can come into the pits, respond to what RKV did, and put on a fresh set of tires and then just gun for it. But this is going to be interesting. If Pratik decides to stay out for one more lap, I think RKV is going to catch up pretty soon when he goes in for his pit stop. Your thoughts, Shibi?
I would actually say his tire are at this point like in a pretty bad shape. Um, RKV is going to catch up no matter what. So I would say quickly go into the pits, change the tires, fill up, and gun it. So, otherwise like RK is going to actually catch up. If he stays for one more lap, RKV is going to be catching up in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's also look at the Group 3 guys. Tegiswan still leading the field with about a 24-second gap between himself and Dan Lord. That's a massive gap. And it's going to be a tough task for either of these guys to actually try and make something of it. And Azim and Fiersby are constantly fighting all the time, and it's not helping their cause because these guys are so far behind Tegiswan. You have to remember, Tegiswan has just disconnected.
Oh, okay.
Tegiswan has just disconnected, and the Group 3 race has opened up massively because if Tegiswan got an internet issue and he rejoins at the end of the 2 hour mark, he will be starting at the back of the field 45 seconds behind either Azim or Fiersby, whoever is at the last at that point in time. So this race has just opened up wide. Your thoughts, Shibi?
I mean, like now these three cars in running in group three, they're all close. Like within 3 seconds of each other, and Dan became the guy. Like who is going to be in the front. Like I was actually kind of expecting. I was thinking, what happens if the other one, the leading one, like Tegis one, like he disconnects. I was even thinking like a couple of minutes ago.
Fiersby has just binned it, coming out of the Mossad King. Oh my God, he was right on the heels of Azim, and I think he just went a little too enthusiastically on the throttle, and the back end just stepped out, and he just spins and goes into the wall. That is so bad for him. The gap, which was just a few tenths, is now about 10 seconds between him and Azim Clark. And now, again, he has to do all that work. But the one guy who will benefit is Azim. But that's the point. He does not have any fuel. So he has to go into the pits. Dan Lord still has fuel for about at least 2 laps, I think. He has to go into the pits, Azim, and he will lose that track position, but let's see when he comes back in. I think Tegiswan is on Discord looking for you, Shibi. So I'll just let you take care of that.
Sure.
Okay, so Azim is back into the pits, filling up. Pratik Benya, he is going to go into the pits now, and RKB has a 34-second gap. And you know what? I think if RKB plays his cards right, he should be able. I mean,
Oh,
I
shit.
don't think, yeah, he almost spun out Pratik there. But if RKV plays his cards right, he should get that gap down to at least 4 or 5 seconds once Pratik comes out of the pits. So we'll just stay with Pratik. Let's go on board RKV and look at what he's doing. So
Pratik
he's
has changed his tires. RKV is almost there, and he got like a 1 second penalty.
Yeah, so RKV has that
That's
1 second penalty. So any advantage that he gets at the end of the pit straight, he's going to lose that advantage when he serves the penalty. But we are on board with RKV. He's crossing the
he
start finish
just
straight
got
right
out of
now.
it. Like, yeah,
Yeah, and
after
and
his
and
after.
and it's getting tasty.
Oh
Look at
yeah,
that. He is
yeah.
overtaking Pratik. He has overtaken Pratik, but again, RKV has that
Oh,
point 0.6
1 second.
second penalty. So Pratik will go ahead, but again, this is the start of a battle between these two guys. I think pitting early for RKV and not caring about fuel usage and everything, I think that has made him much more quicker. But let's stay with RKV because he has to serve that penalty, and let's just see where Pratik Benya ends up once the penalty is served. So RKV has the first chicane in his sights. I think he does move off the racing line to serve the penalty. It's almost done. He starts accelerating once again, but Pratik Benya has overtaken him. And because Pratik Benya had that added speed advantage just before the chicane, it does not amount to much, but it's about point 0.6 seconds behind these two guys. But RKV steadily catching up. The gap is falling down. It's about 4 tenths of a second, 3 tenths now behind the slipstream on Pratik Benya. And I think these guys will have a nice tussle. Not just going into this second chicane. Look at that. RKV trying to make a move. He goes down the inside. He has a look. but he's patient. He knows that he'll get another opportunity. So RKB once again staying in the slipstream of Pratik Benya, and I'm sure he's going to try to make the move on the Mulsan King as well. Shibi, what are your thoughts on this fight?
At this point, like I would, it would be better for RKV to stay behind Pratik, save as much fuel as possible, and gain advantage there. Like no point overtaking over here. Even if you overtake with the straights, like Pratik is going to get you back because they are like have they both have the same pace basically. So it'll be better for RKV to actually stay behind Pratik in
And
the race.
I think has been hearing you say that because RKB did not make a move going into the Mulsan King. He's just staying behind, trying to manage some fuel and see if he can maybe get that. The advantage that Pratik has right now is in terms of the pit stop, so the additional couple of laps. So he's just trying to negate that advantage by saving fuel. So I think that's a good strategy from RKV. Just stay behind, put some pressure on him, and if Pratik Benya makes a mistake, then it's just going to be happy days for RKV as well. Let's jump on board Pratik Benya and look at what he's doing. Uh, we are actually on Pratik, and I'll also pull up his live feed as well. Look at that, concentrating all the time. He has put his headset down that he was connected with on Discord, so he wants no distractions. Constantly focusing. Let's just get rid of some information on the screen as well, and let's just enjoy this fight that's brewing between the two guys. Shivi, what do you think between RKB and Pratik Benya? Just playing it cautiously right now, at least in RKB's term. Uh, what do you think is going to be an outcome of this race? I know it's early, but who are you rooting for?
Both of them are equally placed. I mean, like RKB is slightly has like a slight pace advantage. What he's doing is like he's being smart. He's behind like Pratik, and something else like I would actually point out is like just before the race, like we were actually talking over Discord, and the racing rig Pratik has, it's like hanging over there, kind of, it's amazing like how he's actually handling this car like with that kind of a what do you call like the steering wheel, stuff like that. It's not mounted anywhere. I mean, like it's hanging on his whatever rig he has.
Oh yeah,
So
and
that's
looking at
amazing.
those two guys, Azim was shown the blue flag, and these guys were overtaken. And RKB is actually going for the move, but he just stopped. I think RKB had a penalty, so he was just trying to serve that, but he just stopped before the chicane. And Kashyap is asking the question: is Tegiswan new? Yes, Tegiswan or Manu, as he's called, he is new to the Sim Nation India community, but he's an exceptional driver, a huge amount of talent, lots of speed, and a lot of consistency as well. It's a shame that he got disconnected, but he will be back again. But coming back to the matter on hand, these guys, RKB and Pratik Benya, are again behind a Group 3 car, trying to overtake. And and I think RKB right now is just playing it smart. He's just staying behind Pratik, saving his fuel, as Shibi thought as well, and trying to see if he can put some pressure on Pratik Benya. But Pratik Benya is just in the zone. You can just look at him. His eyes are not wavering anywhere. He makes a little bit of a mistake, but he corrects it, gets the car under him, and he's just concentrating thoroughly on this one. What do you think, Shibi?
Absolutely, that's like a those guys are like experienced. They know what they're doing. They're doing like an amazing job. And I'm actually looking at the leader of the Group 3 cars, Dan Lord. So he's like he has like a 34-second gap.
Yeah, absolutely. And RKV has made that overtake stick. So I think he got tired of staying behind Pratik, because you have to understand these cars have so much how should I say, so much downforce that if you're behind someone, the
Yeah, around
dirty air is just
37.
going to be difficult. Uh, when it's at least in corners. So yeah, the dirty air will play a part as well. And the racers are getting anxious in terms of the break that we will have going into the 2 hour mark in the race. And Shibi is taking care of that. But just to give our audience, I'm sorry, just to let you guys know what's going to happen is we will stop the race at the 2 hour mark so that we can allow the other people to come in and join as well. Obviously, they'll start at the back of the pack and we'll maintain the time difference that these guys have. So yeah, enjoy this on board by Pratik Benya while he's driving and following our KV as well.
Okay, Group 3, I think Fierce B is going to overtake Danlord. He has done it. And Dan, he's not fighting. Just let him through. I think he can actually stick behind like Fierce B, and that should be good enough.
Yeah, so Danlord is playing it smart. He just wants that additional speed advantage. But that's the thing because the speed increases so dramatically when you're in somebody's slipstream. Your breaking point changes, and if you do not keep track of what's happening, it can just get away from you. And Azim car being shown the blue flag gets out of the way and lets the Group One car through. So Azim, with all the penalties, I think this is not turning out to be a very good race for him. But he still has an opportunity to make something good happen because right now, uh, to let our viewers know, the top two from each group are going to get a cash prize. So the top two in Group One and the top two in Group Three are going to get cash prizes. And once as things stand now, it's going to be RKV and Pratik Benya in Group One, and in Group Three, it is Fierce B and Dan Lord. But do not discount Tegis One once he jumps on into the race at the 2 hour window because he can make up those positions. He knows he's faster and he can try and make up those positions as quickly as he can. But looking at Fierce B has been shown the blue flag with I think Zolo right behind him, trying to overtake him as quickly as possible without losing much time. So I think all in all, and I want your opinion on this as well, Shivi. All in all, the racers are pretty well behaved in terms of overtaking and in terms of penalties. What do you think?
It's been the case from lap one onwards. There has not been unnecessary battles and stuff like that. So these guys know they have like practiced very well, like most of them. So they know one battle is not going to change anything. So it's like a battle of who fuel more. Not even tire wear. I mean like fuel more. So that is where it is. And one more thing I want to point out is all the penalties which we get are because of cutting corners and stuff like that, the track limits and stuff. And in this track at least, I'm not sure, it's like pretty strict actually. Even if you cut a little bit of corner, so many corners are there, you actually get like a lot of penalty. So just drive within the limits, save as much fuel, and you're good to go. And no unnecessary battles and stuff like that. I think like most of our drivers know that, and that's what I actually see. A couple of them like definitely had five up to 5 second penalties and all, just by cutting corners. And now Azim, I think he's actually pretty good. He learned it, and he's pretty good. He's doing a good race pace.
Yeah, I agree with that premise as well. So these guys are behaving themselves. We're on board RKV, who got a 2.7 second penalty, and he is slowed down massively to get rid of that. And Pratik Benya, who was about 4 seconds behind him, is now catching up quickly. And that's where this race is as well, in terms of these penalties, because the track limits are so strict. You have to be at the top of your game all the time. Make sure that you keep it between the lines. Do not cut corners, otherwise the penalties are just going to change everything. Uh, Zolo about 23 seconds behind Pratik Benya. Nikhil's about 11 seconds behind Zolo. Shami about 3 seconds, and Fun Anywhere about a minute behind these guys. So yeah, I think the race for Group One has opened up pretty massively with Pratik Benya and RKV like miles apart from away from these guys. But anything can happen once the race restarts. We will see a lot of action, and we're just hoping to see some good action, some good overtakes once the race starts as well. But for right now, it's this man, Pratik Benya, who actually has the advantage over RKV because of the pit stop, and RKV who's just trying to build that gap out to Pratik Benya to make sure he negates that pit stop advantage that Pratik has. Your thoughts, Shibi?
Absolutely. RKV, I think at this point is pushing. Like, okay, he was actually pushing. I don't know. Like every other corner is different, I guess. So I'm actually looking at the difference between like RKV and Pratik. RKV is pushing. I think like the reason is he has to pit earlier than Pratik, and I think like he wants to maintain sufficient gap so that like if he pits and comes back, he can actually rejoin Pratik like close enough the same thing. That is, I think, like what is going on in his mind.
Absolutely. So the gap has opened up a little between RKB and Pratik Benya. It's about 2.7 seconds now. Other than that, there's a good gap in the Group 3 cars as well, with Fierce B leading the pack. Um, Azim is now catching up. So I think the gap that Fierce B, like the gap that Tegiswan had built up over all the Group 3 guys, I think that gap has completely gone. So these three are fairly matched in terms of skill level and driving abilities. So once Tegiswan comes back after the 2 hour mark, he will be about 45 seconds behind these guys. So it's going to take him a long time to catch up, and anything can happen during that time as well. But coming back to Fun Anywhere, uh, personally, I think this is not turning out to be a good race for him. But also the other fact that because it's not turning out well for him, he's not giving up. He's still driving. He's still pushing. No matter if he's having a race alone or with other people, he's just enjoying the occasion. What do you think, Shibi?
Uh, you know, uh, Winning is absolutely great. That's the best to do. But as you know, driving for 4 hours, it's no joke. I mean, even though you are not in a real car, you have to kind of spend that much energy, patience, and stuff like that, pinning, whatnot, and all. You'll have to take care of a lot of things. And even though he's back like for 1 minute and 6 seconds, it doesn't matter. He's actually enjoying himself. He's on his own world. Like that is amazing. So good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just enjoying the race, enjoying the view. And Kashyap says on the chat as well that the scenery of GT Sport, and I have to agree. Like, obviously, there are much better racing games or actual simulators, if I can say that, than Gran Turismo Sport. But presentation is also key. Fun Anywhere dives into the pits, and I always think about food. Shivi. It's not just the taste of the food, which in this case is going to be the driving dynamics and the physics and everything, but it's also the presentation. Um, a plate of baked beans and a toast uh, is fulfilling. But if you just spread it around on a plate, it just doesn't look nice. People say you feast with your eyes, and I think that's where Gran Turismo is. You let the game do the talking. You let it show all the beautiful things that it has on offer, and you just fall in love. What do you think?
Oh, the biggest thing about Gran Turismo is the graphics and whatnot. But I mean, like in my mind, like the biggest thing is boot it up, go. You don't worry about things. Like there are it's actually made just for racing fun and stuff like that, without even complicating stuff. It has enough things to worry about, like complication and stuff. I mean, there are tire wears and fuel and whatnot. But unlike other games, you do not have to really take care of the tire pressure and and all those kind of nonsense. But you just like people who want to, unlike us, like on a weekend, take it out, drive and compete with others, race and stuff like that. It's like amazing. And then add on top of it like amazing graphics and stuff like that. The realism is better. Like this is actually absolutely good for me.
My thought process has always been that if Gran Turismo or Polyphony Studios, who created the game, if they really wanted to implement all of this, they could have done it. If they really wanted to implement a different kind of tire model or a different kind of game physics or a damage model, they could have gone ahead and done it. I think they have the manpower. I think they have the capabilities. Uh, when it comes to racing simulations, these guys were there first. You have to remember, these guys have been there for a very, very long time. So if they really wanted to, they could have done it. But I feel they purposely kept it a kind of like an arcadey style. So novices like me, for example, who never played a racing game, can pick up a controller, jump onto Gran Turismo, and just starting to appreciate. And that's where you get into, the sim ecosystem. You're on the controller, and then the next thing you know, you're buying a wheel, and the next thing you know, you're buying yourself a nice cockpit, custom made, and all of that stuff. So I think it's pretty inclusive, and as their tagline says, driving is for everyone. So I think they've tried to make it as inclusive as possible so that they reach people into the grassroots level who probably may have never driven a proper
Right, right.
racing game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like Abhi, like you'll have to keep in mind that the hardware which this is running is like what, like 8 years old or 7 years, or I don't know, somewhere around that. And that is what it is actually the problem. They will have to balance it out. Like they will have to see like where they have to spend like enough resources, because the game uses some amount of physics and then like a lot of graphics and like a lot of other things, with a limited hardware which is actually like 8 or 7 years old. I'm not sure about that, but definitely it is like around there. And trying to compete with that kind of a resource, with a game which runs on modern PCs like Assetto Corsa Competizione, or iRacing, or anything else, like it's ridiculous. Competing with that itself is like an amazing thing. So we get like so many features that, so like the tire model and all those things, they will have to kind of at some point balance it out. And with all these limitations, they are actually brought out like this. We are still enjoying after so many years of the game coming out. This is amazing. I'm just excited for like uh, GT7's launch. I mean, like they get like enough hardware. I'm waiting to see like what they're actually going to do with that.
Absolutely, and I think GT7 is going to be prettier as well. Kashyap says on the chat, it's easy to do well in GT Sport, but it's very difficult game to master, and that is true. It's easy to get into that ecosystem. It's pretty easy to just pick up your controller and start playing. You can't do that in other like hardcore sims. But to get continuously better in the game is really, really difficult. Uh, if we take the example of our community, look at Ancient Pleb and look at Abby to Speed. These guys have been on GT Sport for such a long time. They understand the game. They understand how it works. And whenever, I mean, Ancient Pleb is not here today because he's busy with a photo shoot for Toyota India. Uh, but he won that contest. So people who saw the Toyota event, Pleb or Aditya Raghav, he was constantly seconds, like about 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds ahead of people. And that's what this game is. You have the people who have just jumped into the game, and you have these people who have been playing it for a couple of years who are trying to get better and better. And you have absolute aliens like him, and like the other people like who stream like Super GT and Tidge and Key and all of these guys. They just understand the game so well, and to reach that level, it's going to be difficult for everyone. And I think that's where the fun is, because the more you play, the better you understand, and the more you understand the game and how the cars work and how everything works out, the faster you get. What are your thoughts, Shibi?
Uh, oh, by the way, RKV is actually, I'm actually seeing him in the gravel. I don't know why. Like, are you actually?
I see RKV in the gravel. I think this is an internet issue. I think he'll get disconnected.
No,
Oh,
no,
he is moving. So maybe his equipment got disconnected. I remember something like this happened to Caesar, where his wheel just got disconnected in the middle of the race and he could not do anything. And look at that, on dirty tires, it's going to be so difficult for him. And all the time that he gained, he's just lost it. He's about 56 seconds behind Pratik Benya. So I think something really bad has happened to his equipment, but it looks like he's back up and running. And we'll just see
Running
what
up
he does now.
massive disadvantage, like 56 seconds, like massive disadvantage. And we are like 2 point. We have like 2 hours and 30 minutes to go. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
you know, I think he came out of the pits and then he binned it. So the 56 seconds that we're seeing over there, you might have to take out about 30 odd seconds in the pit stop window. So I think he came out of the pits and binned it. So I'm not too sure exactly what happened there. I do have a replay buffer set up, but I think that's only for our KV. Uh, so the 56 seconds that we're seeing over, no replay buffer right now. But
but like, Pratik has to
so the
pit in
56
another couple
seconds
of
that
laps, I think 1 or 2 laps most probably, and RKV will be within like 28, 30 seconds. I think.
Yeah. So once Pratik pits, let's just look at Pratik's. Yeah. So Pratik is probably going to pit the next lap. Once he does that, RKB should be able to bring the gap down. But again, going into the gravel with all the dirt on his tires, even if he comes back out, I think he'll come back around at least 18 to 20 seconds behind Pratik Benya, and he'll have to do all the work all over again.
True, absolutely. Earlier we were actually talking about like improving in the game and stuff like that. So you know, definitely, I've actually seen. I think, yeah, like definitely like Pleb is the the best among us, I think, in India, and then comes like Abhi to speed, and then amazingly actually you Abhi, isn't it? Like you have improved like so much. I mean, like what was that daily race and think like what was your this one? You were like just behind Pleb, isn't it?
Yeah, in the last week and the week before that I was, but that took me like a couple of hours of continuous qualifying sessions to actually get to that level. I think Pleb probably did it in about like 20-25 minutes. It took me about 3 hours to get, and I know I can go faster, but that's where this thing is. He's so consistent in his racing that even if I overtake him on a qualifying lap, he should be able to easily overtake me throughout the entire race. That's where the difference is.
Absolutely. One is actually for you to know the lines, where to, and then the next is like where to brake, like how much to brake. That is actually important. Like, I'm learning things like as I go, like how much you should brake. You know the brake marker. So this is where I brake. Like, should I brake harder, or should I brake lighter, or should I brake like somewhere in the middle? So that is actually quite.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one thing. RKV is just overtaken Zolo once he came out of the pits. So RKV has made his move on Zolo because Zolo was in the pits. But Pratik Benya, I think, is going to go into the pits in this lap, and that's where we'll see what kind of advantage he holds over RKV and what kind of, how much did that mistake actually cost RKV during the entire last lap. So just to let our viewers know, we have 30 more minutes before we actually go ahead and take a break. So the stream will be paused for about 15 to 20 minutes,
One thing.
15 to
Can you
20
just
minutes,
clarify
and
like how you
once everything
explain
is done, we will come back out, and the racers who were not able to connect, they will go ahead and join the race again.
So, Abhi, like, how is this break going to happen? They're actually going to, go like self-drive mode.
So the all the racers will exit the track, and the stewards will keep a track of the time differences between the drivers, and a fresh race will be started with a 2 hour duration, and we'll just manually let everyone off the line based on their times as well.
So yeah, the race will completely go offline for about 15-20 minutes, and these guys will jump back in and will start based on the time difference that they had before the race started. I am just looking at this. Fierce B, I think, has disconnected. Fierce B has disconnected. So I just heard from Fierce B as well. He had an internet disconnection. So I think in Group Three we just have two guys remaining. That's Dan Lord and Azim Clark. But Fierce B and Tegiswan and Cape Crusader will come back once the new race begins after the 2 hour mark. So I'm excited just to see exactly what's going to happen then. Pratik Benia has gone into the pits, and the gap between him and RKB is now 29 seconds. So Pratik has not changed his tires. He's still on old racing softs, and RKB is on a fresh set of softs, like fresh set of softs. So he should be able to bring that gap down to about at least 18 to 20 seconds, considering the consistency of Pratik. But then again, look at that. He gets that 1.5-second penalty and he has to serve it before the first chicane. And that just negates all the advantage that he has over Zolo, and also the advantage he was gaining over Pratik. So he will slow down now, and Zolo is about 2.4 seconds behind him. So I don't think Zolo will be able to catch up just yet, but the gap has come down as well. So Zolo will be in slipstream range.
RKB was pushing, like, you can actually see the fastest lap, 3:20, and that was he's the fastest, and he was actually pushing. I think like he knew where he pinned it and he has to catch up. But 2.9 seconds behind. I think like in another couple of not couple of, I mean like he might take some time to actually catch up, catch up.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of time for RKV to catch up to Pratik, especially with the kind of consistency that Pratik has. Um, so I think Pratik will be counting his lucky stars today because he got overtaken by RKV. RKV goes into the pits and then he just loses it.
Right. So Azim is 21 seconds behind Dan. So that's going on. I think like Dan has to pit and they will be close together.
Yeah, so once Dan pits, I think he'll come out about 5 or 10 seconds behind Azim. So I think all these disconnections have worked out in the favor of Azim because he's now going to be at the front of the field when the race restarts, with obviously Cape Crusader and Tegiswan and everyone else trying to catch up to him. So they will have 2 hours to make that jump and take that position. But this is where it is right now. We have two guys remaining in Group Three. We lost about four of them due to disconnections. And once the race restarts after the 2 hour mark, it is going to get incredibly tasty, at least for the guys at the back of the field. Your thoughts, Shibi?
Absolutely. You know what? I was actually looking at like Shamim, so he's actually 11 seconds behind RKV, and I'm also looking at the fuel consumption, tire, and things like that. There is nothing. There is not a big gap between them. I mean, Shamim could actually like be within RKV, like pretty soon. But then RKV definitely is like faster. but I do not know what happened. Like, why it actually came down to 12 seconds.
Yeah, I think we'll get to know that once the break starts. I'm sure the drivers will have a lot to talk, a lot to talk about, a lot of accusations flying around. I think Shabby will feel hard done by with what happened to him on the first lap itself. So we'll have to take a look at what exactly happened, whether he spun out, and the to add insult to injury, he spun out and he came back onto the track. But by that time, the Group 3 cars were already moving. So he got caught up in that as well. And that just made him drop right back at the end of the field behind the Group 3 cars as well. So he'll be feeling hard done by. But a 40-second gap to Pratik Benya with a race restart, I think he might be able to pull something off.
I think definitely he's there. He isn't going anywhere, so he just need to race smart like for another like 2 hours and 20 minutes, and he should be there in the top.
Ab-
Uh, Meanwhile, RKV, yep, he's actually closing the gap as we speak. Very slowly, slightly, but there for sure. But again, a couple of corners, he's actually kind of he's getting those penalties, which is actually holding him back. But otherwise, race pace wise, he's actually consistent. 323, 323, the last couple of laps. Yeah.
Yeah, our RKB is fairly consistent. So he's brought down the gap from about 30 seconds to 25 seconds in one lap. And Pratik Benya is obviously saving on fuel and tires. I know for a fact that Pratik's tires are more worn out than what RKB is carrying. Uh, but Pratik is consistent. That's where the difference is. Pratik is not making these small mistakes, and getting penalties and having to serve all of them. So he's not making all of those mistakes. He's just trying to be as consistent as he can. And RKV is going to have a tough time trying to catch up to Pratik. Your thoughts, Shibi?
Both of them they have their own strength. I mean, like Pratik is speed and stuff like that. He's gaining that way. RKV he's has the space, as I said a couple of times. A couple of times, like he has that advantage. Both are playing to their own advantage. It's anybody's game. Like you have 2 hours and 20 seconds. I mean, Pratik could spin out. Like I'm not sure. 4 hours or 4 hours of racing. Like anything could happen. So just waiting, when they will both meet each other and race, like for sure, that's going to be happening. I think, the last 30 seconds, 30 minutes in the race, that is going to happen, or at some point in our race. So waiting for that. So meanwhile,
While we
what?
look at RKV, I'll have a small snippet of Pratik Benya onto the bottom right as well. So we can take a look at both of them. And you are correct. I mean, anything can happen, but from the look of it, I think Pratik has been so consistent in driving that he looks far likely to make a mistake than anyone else. He's been consistently setting the same pace. He knows exactly what he's doing, and until and unless something really, really bad happens to him that's not under his control, um, RKV will probably have to stay content with second position. Your thoughts, Chibi?
Uh, Absolutely. I mean, between them, uh, it's anybody's game. But other than that, I'm also looking at Shamim and Nikhil. Both of them are closing down. I mean, like both of them are together, 3.7 seconds between them, and they are like just like 12 seconds behind like RKB. So if you think about that, I mean, like all four of them are like pretty close. I mean, given the duration of the race, so that's like fun. That's like amazing. So at any point in time, like all of them could meet, and then we'll have like an amazing race. But again, like it's not about battling in the corners. It's actually again like preserving fuel and being smart about it and riding smart.
Yeah, exactly. So it does not always make sense to battle in the corners and fighting for track position all the time. But yeah, RKV is slowly and steadily bringing that gap down. It's about 23 seconds now, so he ate up about 2 seconds during the last lap. So he is consistently bringing that gap down. Pratik Benya will be looking at his rearview mirror or at least on the timing sheet, and he will be looking at RKV slowly and steadily catching up. So I think now is the time for Pratik Benia to start pushing, especially considering that we will be stopping the race within 20 minutes from now. Your thoughts, Shibi?
Absolutely. So, that is great. I'm actually looking closely at, how Pratik is doing. Um, uh, he is like pretty smartly. He's not actually taking like race risks or something. So, yeah, he's actually not making any mistakes. He's driving within the limits. Oh, I just said that and he actually came up. Okay. He was in the limits. But anyway, like he's actually driving pretty consistently. I think like he knows that the time gap between him and RKV is coming down. I'm not sure whether he's like pressurized or so, but it's fine, I guess. Like, he just need to. He shouldn't be worrying about RKV or anything. He should drive like his own pace and it should be fine.
Absolutely. Pratik Benya is fairly consistent in the way he goes about races, and we're actually on board Pratik Benya right now, and also looking at him driving onto the bottom right. Uh, it's actually going to get interesting because RKV is constantly bringing the gap down. He is pushing that car, and Pratik Benya is taking it slow into the corners, making sure that he does not get any sort of penalties or anything like that that negates his advantage. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one, especially with about 17 and a half minutes until we actually go ahead and pause the race for the mandatory break. But it's about 20 seconds between RKV and Pratik Benya now. So we'll just take a look at through the entire field and see what the other guys are doing as well. Your thoughts on this one, Shibi?
Yeah, yeah, amazing. I mean, like this is all going fine. I think we do in phase two of the race. Like we will have like how many? I think like three or four at least should come in, right? The people who got disconnected.
Yeah, so I think we will be having at least four people who will join in.
Oh, four people. Okay. Okay. Great. Like I mean, I want to actually see like Ankur come in and show his skills. So he's like an amazing driver, but he'll have that disadvantage, like 45 seconds disadvantage. But I think he should be able to catch up. He'll be fresh. The other guys, like they are like who are racing right now, who are tired most probably. I mean, like after 2 hours of racing, but Ankur will be fresh. He'll, I think like 45 seconds, he should be able to catch up. I think in the next 2 hours or something. He shouldn't make any mistakes and stuff like that. That is something which we can actually anticipate, expect to. But other than that, like since the cars are going to be more, like it will be interesting. There will be a lot of battles and stuff like that. So we can wait for. And at this point, like Pratik and RKV, they have like 19.6 seconds gap. So it's coming down. RKV shouldn't make any mistakes, and it should be there with the Pratik Benya guys. And the fuel situation is also not bad. Tire, Pratik, you know, tires are like almost gone. But he's not changing, I think, like in pit stop. Every other pit stop, he's not changing, but RKV is. So that is some advantage which Pratik has. But overall, it's actually fine. Like, RKV is running his own race, but race pace is good, so he's actually catching up Pratik. Like he just set like purple laps and stuff like that, so he's actually pushing. So he knows, like, he has to close that gap. And he's also pretty consistent, 323. That is what he's actually running. 29th last lap was 321, so he definitely pushed, and close to 1.8 seconds. He has actually pushed. So he shouldn't make those mistakes cutting corners and stuff like that. He just made one, so he has like a 1 second penalty. But he's setting purple laps as well, so he has to be careful in that area. Then it should be actually fine. At this point, like we have like 18.8 seconds gap between Pratik and just because RKV pushed, I think like he has created a gap between him and Shamim as well. And Nikhil is close behind. They are pretty close. So Aditya, so he's actually running his own race. I mean, like he's not bothered about anything. So kind of crazy.
Yeah,
He is.
Aditya, I don't think he cares. He's just staying on the track, trying to get a feel for it, just enjoying this event because this is the first time that we're doing something like this of such a long duration. So he just wants to get that experience under his belt. But one thing is for certain, yes, RKV is going to push all the time. And Pratik Benya will be constantly looking at the timing sheets, just making sure that RKV is not taking up that gap too much because we are about 13 minutes until the start of the break, and whatever time those guys have then is going to define their race start. And once they start the race, they're going to be on fresh set of tires, a full tank of fuel. So any pit stop advantage that you have, it just goes away. Your thoughts?
Uh, Absolutely. I mean, definitely. So, they need not worry so much. Just wanted to point out Dan over here. Out of all the Group 3 cars, you know, Dan was actually running last, but he's actually running consistent. He's not doing anything stupid. Like he's slow. I mean, he's slightly slower, but he's not doing anything stupid. So he's actually at this point like he has like 32 seconds gap between himself and Azim. So Group 3, he's actually the leader at this point. So he's being cool. Like so, no worry in the world. He's like I think like he's going to win. If I'm not wrong.
I'm sorry, I was taking a water break. But yeah, Shibi, just a word of advice. I can actually hear my echo from your end as well, so maybe you might want to take care of that on our chat channel. But I'll tweak the volume, and I'll just let you know that yeah, Danlord was running behind everyone with a huge gap, and Azim was in front of him. But now look at that; it's like a 32-second gap between Danlord and Azim. And Dan Lord looks set. Like if he stays consistent throughout this entire thing, he looks set to actually take a very good position at the end of the race. What are your thoughts?
No, as I said, like exactly. So he was not bothered about being in the last, like lap 10 or something, or within that, like he was actually in the back of the pack. But he was not bothered. He just ran his race, like he didn't make any mistakes, and now he's actually 32 seconds like ahead. He's the leader of the three. He could win this. He doesn't have to. He don't. That proves that you don't have to have an ultimate pace or anything, but just save the fuel. Don't do any mistakes. So that should be good.
Absolutely. Consistency is key over here. So, like, you have to be consistent in no matter what you do. So, even if you're setting even if you're setting a 3 minute 20, like RKV is doing, you can do it for a couple of laps. That's fine. But if you are setting a 3:23, for example, that Pratik Benya is doing, and setting that consistently throughout your entire stint, I think that is a much better advantage than just outright pace. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at GD Sports daily race, you have like A, B, C. All of them require like different strategies, different way of approaching them. You have like 4 lap races. Uh, I don't I don't enjoy participating in that because it doesn't have anything. You just need to ram everyone and reach into front. But the longer the race, the number of laps increases. Then you have to think about all the tire and then the fuel and stuff like that, and then you are actually racing smart. It's not only about like race pace. I mean, race pace is definitely there, but not every lap pace or lap time and stuff like that. It's just pure playing smart, so that is something which I kind of like. And the more smart you are actually going to win. And these two guys like Pratik and RKV, they are actually doing that, and that's why they are ahead. They are like 24 seconds ahead of like Nikhil, and give or take, they should be like close enough. I think just minus those fuel advantage, RKV should be actually close enough to Pratik. They are actually competing with each other. They know that. Mm, Shami just pitted, I think. Shami.
Yeah, Shami just pitted, and you are correct. I mean, how shall I put this? Because there's such a long race, and anything can happen. Uh, the people who show up and the people who stay actually have a much better advantage. And in this case, like Dan Lord, who we are looking at right now,
He showed up. He's here. He has not had network disconnections. He's not had any issues. And look at that. He's running the top of his class. So I think that explains a lot in terms of consistency and just keeping it between the lines, just running your own race and making sure that you set your own times consistently throughout your entire stint.
Correct, absolutely. And being the first race of this type within our group, within our community, people are learning. We are looking at it and stuff like that. So they're not used to it, but they are learning like as they are going. And people who are looking at it, they know like the next time they will know what exactly they have to do. You know, it's kind of a learning experience for them. So this being the first race, these guys are doing amazing job. You know?
Absolutely. And also to the fact that when you mentioned the sport modes and all of that, um, yes, it's shorter duration, so anything can happen. You can crash or just lose out, and then you don't have much time to make it up. But with these longer races, just because you crashed does not mean that it's done or it's over. You can still you know fight for yourself. You can still fight for your position. And I'm looking at Shami still in the pits, and like on my screen it shows that Fun Anywhere has overtaken him, but I don't think that's the case. I think Fun Anywhere is still going to be in the last of the Group 1 category. But yeah, coming back to the point of consistency, I think this man, Pratik Benya, has shown everyone how it's done. And RKV is actually having a pretty good race as well. So he's brought the gap down to 14 seconds. And the race is about to get stopped in about 7 minutes from now. So I'll just let all the participants know. And this is going to get interesting. Your thoughts, Shibi?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like I was actually looking at Shamim, and he's still in the pit. So like, what? Okay, yeah, yeah. Shamim is actually in the pits. I'm not sure like what is happening.
Okay, so just an update to our viewers. There was a little confusion in terms of Shami because we had certain contingency plans in place, and I think he was not aware of what was going on. So he actually went into the pits and took a break. And so once the race ends, we will actually go back and assess the situation and see, take a vote between the drivers and see what we can do. But for now, they can go out into the pits, go out onto the track, and just keep setting a time. And Shibi, I think your job as the chief steward now will be to get off the commentary team and start making a note of the time differences between these guys.
Right. We have like 3 minutes. I think at the end of a minute, like I'm actually thinking. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm going to like take a note of it starting 1 minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Because once the race is about to end in about 3 minutes from now, so I've been constantly letting the drivers know, and so just make a note of the approximate time difference that these guys have from each other, and we can then go ahead and start the race back up. So I'll make a note of that as well, even on the stream before everything ends, so that we have a reference point for us as well.
Right. So Pratik can actually stop, isn't it? I mean, like we have like 1 minute 30 seconds. Pratik can pit.
No, so these guys will just exit out of the track once all of this is done.
End
So
of this lap, Pratik's lap, he can actually stop, isn't it?
no, so we'll take a final once we have like about 10-15 seconds. I would suggest like just start recording a video on your phone and just cycle through everyone so that we get a time. And I'll do that on the stream as well, so we have another point of reference. So about 1 minute remaining now. I'll just let the drivers know as well.
Okay.
So to all the viewers who are watching, the race will start. Race will stop in 30 seconds from now, and we will go ahead and take a break of about 20 minutes. Uh, and as the position is right now, the gaps between everyone, the same gap will be maintained. So yeah, let's take a look at the let's take a look at the gaps once again. And Dan Lord is still into the pits. I'm not sure what happened there. I think he just ran out of fuel. But the race is now going to stop. So we'll just let our drivers know, and that is it.
Right.
So yeah, just to let our viewers know, we will be the stream will still be running. We will just be off air for a few minutes, and once the race starts back up, the stream will go back on, and we will like, keep you guys apprised of any situation that happens.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Abhi? I'll call you. Okay.